How can we build a local economy that supports each other instead of supporting the robber class? Instead of sending our money all to New York or San Francisco or Washington, D.C., how do we keep our money here in your community? First of all, if you still have money in Bank of America, Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, whatever, take your money out of those banks. Put it in a local credit union. All those robber class banks are for profit. Put it in a local credit union that's non-profit that invests in your community. And be on the boards of those credit unions. They're more democratic than sending your money to the robber class banks or giving your money to the robber class banks. Don't use credit. You know, you said earlier that they told us that they're going to bail out the banks so they can start loaning to us again. And for me, I immediately thought, well, that's wonderful. You know, they're using our money to give to the banks to loan back our money to us at interest. Isn't that generous? I just feel so taken care of by the robber class. But what we need to do is break that cycle. Barack Obama called credit the lifeblood of the economy. It's not. It's to them it is, but to us it's the death knell of our economy. They want us paying interest and they want us to be lifelong debt slaves to the banks. So break that cycle. Whatever you have to do, break that cycle. Don't use credit anymore. We, in the robbed class, you know, we do have different income stratifications in the robbed class too, but many of us only have the appearance of prosperity because we've purchased everything on credit. And we don't need that stuff. Madison Avenue works in you know, collaboration with the bankers to convince us that if we don't have the newest and most improved and lemony smelling whatever, if we don't have that, then we're not American. That we have to rush out and buy something that we don't need on credit. And then that makes us more of an American. And I have prove it to you by one sentence. We're not called citizens anymore, we're called consumers. Right? And so stop, buy used. If you buy something new, most of the time you're supporting slave labor. Most of the time you're supporting environmental degradation. When you support slave labor, you're not supporting labor here in the United States. If you can't buy something, if you buy something used, now you're not only helping the environment and helping labor and saving money, but you're also helping a good cause. If you go to a thrift store, right, they're all nonprofit. They all are supporting good causes. And if you have to buy something new, go to a local merchant and you know, patronize, you know, him or her. So I can't talk about everything in my book, of course. I can't talk about all of my solutions. But the one myth that I have to go home and write about is the myth in America. And I think as a history student, I first started, well, I didn't start hearing about the myth. I started, because it happened in the 1800s, but I started reading about this myth happening in the 1800s, about this rugged individualism. You know, that in America we're all rugged individualists. And if we need somebody, or if we need to be needed, if we need to be in community, what are we? We're weak. We're weak. We should be able to soldier. All of this rhetoric is so militaristic. We should be able to soldier through anything. And if we can't, then there's something again wrong with us. Well, that's not the way human beings were made. We're tribal in nature. We crave a tribe. Why do you think we have gangs? Why do you think people join the military? Because they're craving a tribe. So why can't we create healthy tribes instead of unhealthy tribes? And dispel that myth. If you help somebody or if you ask somebody for help, that's not weak, that's strong. That's wonderful. It's anti-American, but let's all be anti-American. And if we start creating healthy systems in our communities, then we start undermining the robber class system. And they know that they need us way more than we need them. And all we have to do is prove it to them. Now there's many things in here that I suggest that aren't exactly legal. You know, like not paying your taxes. That's an individual moral decision, I think. I could no more judge somebody for paying their taxes than I could judge a woman for having an abortion. I believe that's a moral choice. And I don't pay my taxes because when my son was killed, I figured they took something away from me that's priceless. And why should I? And then I was ashamed that I actually contributed to my own son's death by paying my taxes. That's not exactly, you know, a legal thing. I question the validity of a federal income tax anyway. I don't think it's valid, and I don't think that it's constitutional. And the law that created it, I don't think was constitutional. However, that argument never flies. You can try and make that argument in a court of law, but they're not going to allow you to make that argument. So look at the book. See if it makes sense to you. Pass it along. Once I send you the PDF, it's yours. You can send it to as many people as you want. You can use it any way that you want. And what I want from you is after you read it, I want a critique of what you think would work and what you think doesn't work or what you're doing. I was in Corvallis, Oregon in May, and what they're doing there is brilliant. They take vacant lots between houses and they start gardens. And the garden belongs to this house and this house. In one instance, it's a right-wing Republican house and a lesbian couple that hated each other, right? But now they're gardening together and they're building community. Say, oh wow, they're not so much more different than we are. To work on a local level, but be connected nationally. And there's an old bumper sticker or whatever that says, think globally but act locally. And that is really, really the direction that we need to go in. I know Washington, D.C. is glamorous, whatever. But people think that that's glamorous, and that that's where all the action is. No, it's not. That's where all the inaction is. You know, that's where they pass laws that take more away from us. Yep. We need to work here on a local level, and if that means you have to run for a school board or a city council or whatever you have here, that's what that means, and that means that your community has to support you in that. So let's create that. Let's start now. Let's start today and realize that little actions and helping in a little way have way more effect than big actions. It's easier to reach 3 people than it is to reach 300 million people. So start today, and thank you for being here.